In this video, I'm going to show you how to place the lower front radiator support body mount on this Chevy Silverado 2500. This is what your front radiator support sits on the frame, so let's get started. Now I'm going to show you the process on one side. Both sides are going to be an identical process. So let's take this shield down, 4 10mm fasteners. Now you can peel the fender liner back to create some extra space to work in. Now use an 18mm socket, put it on the nut side, which is underneath. Up top, you're going to want a 15mm socket. The bolt head is right over here. It's hard to see, but it's actually very easy to get to. You just have to fit that socket on just to prevent it from spinning as you loosen up the bolt. There we go, 18mm socket. I sprayed this with rust penetrant in hopes that it will help a little bit. All right, there it is. Take the lower part of the bushing, the nut, and now the bolt. Get that tool off there. The bolt comes up through the top, so push it up. There's a washer on top as well. Save that. And now what we have to do to get this part out is actually just jack up right here. If you're on a lift, use a pole jack. If you're on the ground, put a floor jack here. You may have to take this bracket off, just 3 15mm bolts. I'm not going to because I have my pole jack. That'll actually go up and over like this. Just raise this up a little bit in order to get this sleeve and the bushing out. Now I'm going to take my pole jack, just like I mentioned earlier. I'm going to stick it right up here carefully. I'm going to jack up on this support. Now you may have to unbolt the other side the same way to give it a little bit more wiggle room, a little bit more give. I'm actually going to slide a piece of rubber here in between to take up some of that space since my pole jack is curved, but also it will hopefully lessen the pressure on the metal here. There we go. It's raising up. You don't need to go very far, just enough to get the mount off of here. I'm going to take a pry bar, just try to separate. The rubber's pretty much stuck inside of the support here, inside this bracket on the frame. I'm going to try and push it up. There we go. No longer stuck. That moves. I just need to go a tiny bit more up. Use the pry bar to pry it out of the way. And there it is. There's the old one. Now take your new one. Your new one will be just a little bit thicker than the old one, just because it hasn't been compressed yet. So it will need to kind of squish in here a little. But once you get it through, it should slide in. You might need a hammer to tap it in. I did end up having to unbolt the other side. Just lower that nut. Don't remove anything. Just loosen it up so you can raise this a little bit extra. Now, the new mount should slip right in. You're going to have to turn it because there are 2 flat sides on the bottom of this mount, and that's what actually locks it in place and allows it to drop down in its spot. There we go. It's going to be a little bit difficult to push it down. I especially don't want to put my fingers up there. So what I'm going to do is just release pressure off of this, and the weight will push it into its spot, basically. Might have to persuade it a little bit with the pry bar. There we go. Release pressure. You can now remove your support, and we'll tighten up both sides. Now let's put in the bolt from up top, sneak it in here, and drop it down. At the bottom, you have this little cup with the rubber and the metal piece. The metal piece goes down, so don't put it on upside down. Put it with the rubber facing up. The rubber has to squish as you tighten this. And then, of course, the mounting nut. Start that on by hand. Get that threaded on a little bit. And now let's tighten this up. I'm going to use my air gun first and squish it. The torque is 52 foot-pounds, so it's not a whole lot, but we do need to squish the rubber a little bit. So let's do that. Get that breaker bar with the same socket back on here. Just up top on the bolt. And snug it up. That should be close enough. The torque is 52 foot-pounds. Okay, that's 52 foot-pounds right there. Now if you loosen the other side as well, take your tools out of here and tighten up the other side. Bring the fender liner back down. Bring in your splash shield and start on the bolts. Don't tighten them fully yet so that everything can line up. And 2 mounting nuts on the front. This one you can tighten up because this one is lined up. Snug those. Now you can tighten these. Okay, don't make these very tight, so it needs to get a little tighter, but if you tighten them too much, it'll actually crush the rubber here and it will basically break over time. There we go. At this point, you can repeat the process on the other side if you need to replace that mount as well.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.